So the question today is, how can a loving God allow anyone to go to hell? I mean, a kind, gentle, loving God. That may be the hardest question we ever have to answer about God. And as we try to dig and journey through the Bible to find answers, it's not always so easy. So today I want to offer up something to consider. You know, the Bible teaches us a couple of interesting things. We learn in John chapter 12, verse 32, he says, when the Son of Man is lifted up, he's going to draw all men unto himself. Now, note, that's not just some men. God will be drawing all of us to himself. Every single one of us will have this natural, innate wiring that is being drawn to the truth of who God is. Ephesians chapter 2, verses 8 through 9 then tells us that we're not saved by that we're saved through faith. It's not of our own doing. It's a gift from God. So what we see in that verse there is that essentially we all have this measure of faith given to us from God, and I believe every human being is given a gift of faith at birth. Romans chapter 12, verse 3 then tells us God has allotted to each of them a measure of faith. So keeping these two things in mind, God is drawing all of us to him. God is allotting to every human being a measure of faith, right? So we're all born with faith. We're all drawn to him. Therefore, I would say anybody who willfully would reject God and reject Jesus, they do it with full knowledge that God is real, that he's not like some mystery in a little storybook that we read. He's not a myth. He's not some man-made theology. We naturally know that the truth of God is real. And I think this is why Romans chapter 1, verse 20 can confidently say this: on the day of judgment, they will all be without excuse. God has revealed himself, we know, through his creation and the things that are unseen, but we look through the mountains, we look at the ocean, sea, butterfly, monkeys, people. We see through the creation that God has made that he's real. So no one is going to stand before God here on judgment days and say, I didn't know. It's just not going to happen. I think God is a just God. He's a fair God. So from God's position here, keeping in mind that if he is truly a holy God, the only acceptable wage for sin is death. And since God is eternal, your soul is eternal, your spirit is eternal, well, in the wage, the punishment must be eternal as well. Again, a holy God is a just God, and the wages of sin is death. Remembering this, God has such a deep love for us that he knows we can't fix it. So what does he do? He sends his only son, the one he loves more than anything in the world, God himself in the flesh, comes down and he's beaten by us. He's bruised, he's crushed, he's nailed to a cross and just murdered brutally as he's rejected by the very creation that he made. So that's not it. God says, now I've taken care of the sin issue. Whoever calls on the name of the Lord will be saved. But he doesn't stop there. Then he draws all of us to him. And in that process, he's allotted each one of us a measure of faith. So now we all have this free option. Call on the name of the Lord and you will be saved. Now, we get a choice to what we do with that faith. We can say no, or we can say yes. Some freely say, no, thank you. I reject your son, Jesus Christ. I'm not interested. In my mind, because of what I've just shared with you, God is just doling out eternal punishment to anyone that he went out of his way, killed himself, killed his own son in order to pay for our sins and freely hand it over to us. And then we would say, no, thank you. I reject your son. And, the interesting thing is it's not that we need strong faith. It is not about strong faith. It is not about how much faith we have. If we're thinking that way, we've missed it. Faith the size of a mustard seed is all that we need to be saved. It moves mountains. It's all we need. So remembering this, It's don't measure your faith. Am I doing as much as everybody else did? Am I measuring my faith by that? No, it's not about how much. It's about who your faith is in. And if your faith is in Jesus Christ, you'll never have to personally answer for that question, why you would be going to hell, because you won't. But that's the best answer I have for you, why someone who rejects Christ willfully will likely find themselves in eternal damnation. God bless you.